You're on.
Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are missing our chairman, Glenn Rudy, tonight, and he will be joining us in a little bit. Present is myself, Deanne Dvorsets, Brian Hoffman, and Mary Capiello. First Selectman Steve Dunn, Diane Sarasoli, John Lucas, and Marcia. We have no public comment, so we can move past that one and move on to communication and correspondence.
Yep, we had one email dated April 2nd from Andy Correa, 45 West Virginia Road.
Go ahead.
All right, and then I move that we approve the minutes for the March 13th, 2024 regular meeting, and then the March 12th, 14th, and 18th special meetings.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Okay. Steve, we'll give you the floor for the
Okay,
first.
I hopefully won't take too much of your time. The big issue you're going to have before you tonight is the library septic system. It failed last weekend, and on Sunday we had to arrange for a class of 41 librarians from around the state who were scheduled to come to a meeting at the library. Luckily, we got the Congregational Church to give us space, so they were still able to hold the meeting. Can you imagine trying to cancel with 41 people coming? So we had thought that we would be able to do some temporary measures, pump the tank out, keep it going till we could get the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to approve it. It turns out that the tank was broken, so every time we pumped it out, it would just fill again. That in turn caused the pump to run continuously because it's a pump up system. So it goes in the tank, pumps it up into the fields, and was causing the pump to operate erratically. So I had to make an emergency decision to start the work before it came to the Board of Finance. We had raw sewage going out into the storm drains. That is a huge no-no from a state and federal standpoint. You can get huge fines. So what we did was we had to replace the tank. We had to get a special waterproof tank. We had to spend a lot of time dewatering where the tank goes. It was just filling up with water because of where it's located. So we're still dewatering right now. It turns out that the electrical power to the tank for the pump is encased in a metal casing, the electric line, which was rusting and rotting. That doesn't meet code. You don't put electricity through a metal container. There was a drain line. This is all we've learned in the last couple of drain line from the gutters that ran over the top of the septic tank that we had to take out and replace. We found a break in the main from the building to the tank that we had to replace. When we went to put in the field lines in the leaching fields, it turns out that the fields were mud. There was no stone, there was no fabric, the fabric they put around. So it's caused a lot more work than we had originally anticipated. We had to do this work. We didn't have a choice. So the original quote was about $26,722. We had to replace the pump. We have to do the electric from the library to the pump, which we didn't anticipate. We had to dig out the fields down to about 3.5 feet of 75-foot fields, fill them with stone, wrap them with geotextile, and put in new perforated pipe. We originally, the quote to us said replacing the tank would take 4 hours. It took more than 1 day because of the dewatering and the placement and everything. So the total cost now, the estimate is $38,722. So what I would ask the board to do is to approve, there may be some small things, to approve up to $40,000, and then I'll get the Board of Selectmen to retroactively approve the same amount. I think that's the way we would do it. You guys can approve, well, no, I think you guys could approve more than we approved, right? Or do we have to do both?
Or if we approve it just as is, he had room in his budget, that, from things he knows he'll need later in the year, so he, Ralph.
Okay.
So he wouldn't be over budget yet.
Yeah, so what we could do is, if you can approve the 28,000, right, that gives us a little room now, we can pay for this, and then get the final number, and then come back to you for an additional appropriation. We have money in the public works that we could use right now. It's too much money to take out of their budget permanently. It's just, I just want to be totally upfront with you guys.
So I'm just thinking process. The Board of Selectmen hasn't met on this, I mean.
Oh, no, we
Can I-
did.
Met on the fifth.
We approved up
You
to
approved it, yeah.
28,000.
Oh, that's right, I heard that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so there you go.
Yeah, the
Yes,
Board of
that
Selectmen has
Okay,
met on this. There was a question about whether I had the authority to approve this work. I consulted with the town attorney, and his opinion is that yes, because this was an emergency, you had to act. We would have had the library closed, and also we would have raw sewage going.
Yeah, it's a public.
We just
development.
had to do the
Yep.
work. And, you know, this happened Monday afternoon late. I'm not gonna ask your board to meet one day earlier than when you were gonna meet to approve it. That didn't seem to me to be. And I talked to Glenn about it. He was pretty much in favor of it. On a good note, the presidential primary went well. We had, what, about 450 people voted, I think, something like 500 people. We are working, I sent this list to you, we're working, remember we were talking about the vehicles the town has, the police has, public works, we're working on that. I sent you the preliminary lists on that. If there's anything other information that you want about those vehicles, just let us know and we'll get that. We should have that finished well before your next meeting. We're really looking at every single vehicle, putting in a replacement schedule, a replacement cost, all of those things that you might like to see. Our
Is these, I know it's vehicles, but are we putting things that are high dollar value assets, like, I mean, the chippers were $60,000, that's the price of a.
We're putting in every
Yeah,
vehicle we
I
have.
think
Okay.
there was a comment like the cement mixer is only a $1,500 piece, and that was mentioned, but not normally in the capital list because it's
Yeah.
lower cost. but-
Like a cement mixer, we could even take that out of
Yeah, right,
operating.
that's-
We're just
Yeah.
creating a whole list,
Mhm.
so we know.
Okay, so it's got
Uh,
other
The big-
assets,
Yeah, it's
not
not
just.
just
Yeah.
truck.
There's just on the list I sent you, there is a second tab. Those are private plates, and we ask that you not share those numbers.
Mhm.
So about 5 years ago, a resident of the town, Paul, I won't say his last name, donated when he passed away, he left in his will his property. And the town looked at it, we couldn't use it for any specific purpose. It was just in a residential area, and his desire in his will that his property be used to preserve open space in Brookfield. So we sold the property about 5 years ago after consultation, making sure it's okay. We had ring-fenced that money with restricted funds. The Northwestern Land Conservancy has a deal to purchase the property of Budding Burr Farm off of Dusename Road that goes down to Lake Lilanona, and where we own property next to the bridge. They have reached an agreement with the owner to purchase that property, and they asked for the town to make a $52,000 donation, $52,580. Paul, in his will, left that money for the Conservation Committee to make decisions on what to do with that money. I approached them with the request from the Northwest Land Conservancy. They were asking for $52,580, 10% of the purchase price of the cost of acquiring the land. Would the town be interested in donating it? And the Conservation Committee approved that, so we will be sending them a check for $52,580, which will allow them to fully fund that purchase. They call it the Ledges. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's a beautiful piece of
I thought
property.
a couple of years ago, we actually had that in the capital, that came up a few years.
100,000.
What?
There was 100,000 at that time,
Yeah.
and nothing ever happened with
Okay,
it.
okay.
I'm not sure the previous administration knew this or checked this, but that we had money that's set aside by Paul,
Yeah.
and I think that's a much better use of money rather than town money, right? That would leave about 153,000 in his bequest to purchase future open space. And he made it very clear in his will that only the Conservation Committee could spend that money.
That was my question. So is that's documented, that's the,
Oh, yeah.
that's the control?
Yep.
That, it's in the will, that it was, I think it was land at first that we sold, and then it
Right.
became cash.
It
And
was his house, actually.
Okay, and then it's in the special revenue fund for conservation, it used to be called Gursky Property Fund, but there were other properties, so Conservation Commission Fund, and you'll see 208 there that's been reserved, that can only be spent for those purposes.
For open space.
Sounds like the perfect use of
Yeah, it does, but it doesn't go through any other process other than the Conservation Commission?
No, I ran it by the town attorney. I sent a request from Northwest Land Conservancy to both Conservation and the town attorney and asked him, does this fit in the will? I sent him the will again, and he said, absolutely, it does. And the Conservation Committee, under the guidance of Tony Capiello, someone we all know and love, they thought it was real and they approved it. So that's what we're gonna do.
Pretty sure they voted unanimously for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so on a little different note, I met with Parks and Rec director this morning, and she's doing some interesting things. They have finally gotten their online registration system up and running, and you'll be pleased to know that their use of it in the first 9 days of this month compared to last year is up over 20%. So people are using it, they're signing up. That frees up staff to help people who walk in, so that's working really well. The boat ramp for the dock for the boat ramp at Cadigan is in the water now. We're pushing Tucker to get the docks, the swimming docks out as quickly as possible so we can look at them. Remember we talked
Yeah,
about
I'm looking at that.
repairing them? We can't repair them until we can get them out, so we're pushing that. And they are having, if you're interested, a townwide tag sale. They have 41 residents whose houses are going to be on the townwide tag sale. And 51 residents are going to set up here in this field for a tag sale, where the farmer's market usually goes. It's quite I'm surprised so many people, so it's a one-day event. We'll see how that works. We are continuing to work with Parks and Rec and all of the leagues in town to really understand what fields they're using, how many players they have, what resources they need back and forth. I met with the soccer club 2 days ago. I hope to meet with lacrosse and soccer. They have created a memo of understanding between the town and these leagues, right? With just, there have been some issues. You know, we have the lights down here up at TAC. I won't go into the detail, but it's caused some problems. We want to make sure everybody understands who's doing what they're doing, how they do it, when they do it, and who gets, for example, who gets first call on a field. And they have a criteria. Number one is Brookfield kids. Number two is Brookfield kids, or teams of Brookfield kids mostly, and some kids from out of town, because they're travel teams and things like that. And it goes down the list to finally outside people, right? Just people who want to rent one of our fields. So we're going through that. It's going to be an iterative process. They are also looking to implement a fee per user per season for the players to build a fund like Newtown has to help maintain the fields. That again, those funds would be kept separately and ring fenced for only field maintenance and Parks and Rec activities associated mostly with our children. We do have a men's softball league. They use Cadigan, right? But it's mostly our kids.
There's some
90%.
adult soccer leagues too, I think, that use our fields.
I'm sorry?
I think there are some adult soccer leagues too that use the fields.
Oh, yeah, that use Patak.
Yeah.
It's a long story. We have to work our way through it, but we will. And that's pretty much it for my report.
Are we, oh, we're still,
We're gonna have to go without.
okay.
Okay.
He did buy a cable, and last
Didn't work?
button I pushed shut the whole thing down, so I don't wanna shut down the live feed, so, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so, the revenue, that you have the revenue reports that were $338,000 better than last month. It's 260 is property taxes, and we project property taxes based on averages, so we were higher than our average so far, but next month we could be lower, so that's just our best guess now. The land use department fees are up 43,000. Conveyance taxes are up 5, senior revenues are up 5, up from our projection. And again, we're projecting on averages. Interest income 20, and there was a discussion of a one-time rental income for Iroquois for some improvements they're doing. So that was.
Algonquin.
Pardon me?
Algonquin.
Algonquin, sorry. So that was the last 5. So that's how we're up to 38,000,
How much is that again?
338,000.
Okay, thank you.
The other items to know about revenue, that we received 90,000 from Eversource as an energy efficiency incentive for Candlewood Lake Elementary School. We checked with Arcadis, that's our project manager. It's not included in their budget there. They knew about it. They knew it would be coming. But it's not something that they're expecting to be handed over to the project budget. So we talked with the Board of Ed, and ultimately they're going to need more money, but it didn't seem appropriate to give this to them directly, because it's not operating. So that was just deposited this week, so you'll see that next month. And there's some blight fines that were supposed to be closing last month, but last week. They didn't close last week, but hopefully they'll close this week.
They're supposed to close on the 12th.
So those are the revenue figures. Any questions on revenues? Expenditures that,
Can we stop there for just one second? I'd like to add to my report if I could. So 846 Federal Road, next to the liquor store, where the building, the tree fell on it, we've had them under blight. The liquor store owner is under contract to buy that. It's supposed to close in 2 days. We brought him before the blight panel already and said, we will put any future, when you buy the property, we will put your blight fines in abeyance, as long as you come to us with a plan and tell us what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, to take that building down, et cetera, et cetera. They had a little disagreement last week, something about asbestos, right? Okay, but it looks like he's gonna close on the 12th, so we'll get about $100,000 in blight fines, and then we wanna support him as he goes through taking that building down. I don't know that, he said a couple things, he might make it parking, or he might expand his building, but our goal is just to get that building down, so it looks like it's gonna happen. Thank you. Sorry, Marcia, go ahead.
no problem. On expenditures, that we're trying to transfer money out where we know we have extra, and put it into contingency. Mostly so we all know that it's there and it's extra, and it's not just in my head that we have extra money here or there. So Board of Assessment Appeals, they're done and this is based on our quarterly meetings with the departments. They're done for the year, so we're taking the rest of their money. The legal, last month, or maybe 2 months ago, we asked for some transfers for legal, and you said no. And wise decision, because 2 of the big cases have closed, or at least closed for now, and so that has freed up some money as of last week when I did the analysis. It has freed up some money to cover what we needed on other cases. So we do have the tax litigation legal. This is one we asked for last month, and we're continuing to ask for this one. This was based on an old bill from, there were 2 old bills that we talked about. One you told me absolutely not. And the second one was a bill from March of 2023 that we didn't get in until January of 2024. So just to point out, it's not a new case, it's still the old case, but we had thought that billing was over. It's not double accounted for or anything, so that's why we need the tax litigation. Regular litigation, we're okay. The other ones, we're just continuing to monitor as you instructed, and we may be back next month. Registrar of Voters, that they had requested security at the primaries, just because of what's been happening nationally, and so that's where they're looking for more money. Land use, they need more money in their sporadic wages. That's clerk to the boards. They have a number of boards there. They've had more subcommittee meetings than in the past, and they've started the Plan of Conservation and Development meetings, all of which require a clerk. So that's why they're looking for more money. Building department, sporadic wages, that was to get us through until the end of the year. We talked about that during his budget meeting. Steve is still working with him on the best plan for next year, but that is a temporary solution, and it's $2,400 there. Economic development, that for the Greg Dombowski's wages, we usually say that 33% we'll try to cover with grants. So we try to cover as much as we can with grants. Some grants allow it, some grants don't. We can't be posting it to a grant that, one, we don't already have, or two, that doesn't allow it. So we need more money in the contra account to offset that. Employee benefits, we've had a lot of turnover that for health insurance, that and of course they don't take health insurance when there's a turnover. Highway, salt and sand, it's been a really warm winter. And this was the first tranche. We were still waiting for the final bill at the time that I had to give this to the selectmen, so you'll see we took more money from there in the second set of numbers for the septic. Electric, we did a lot of work on electric down to kilowatt hours, and we found that we may have $13,000 extra there based on those projections. When we did the budget, we budgeted for kilowatt hours at 9.88%. I was able to do some really good cocktail party talk the other day when we talked about cost per kilowatt hours. Nobody had 9.88, but they were private homes. We were able to lock that in. It had gone up after, that was our lowest amount. It had gone up, but it came back down, and they had an alert to tell us as soon as it was down. Grounds, they need more money in overtime. The elementary school, ice conditions, evening events, and prepping the fields for them moving games around have all contributed to that. But overall, between the pluses and the minuses, that we would move $136,718 into contingency. So we'll be asking you to look at that transfer later. That was the one that was presented at the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting. The secondary meeting, workers' comp, that we're taking $3,800 out of there, that we've been allocating it out to the police, to ARPA. That's done now. We've used up their money for ARPA for this purpose. And the social services liaison, so that's where we have the $3,800 extra. Life, disability, and Medicare, that I had put money in there, and when we heard the rates were going up, and the rates didn't go up as much as I had thought they were, because they increased January 1st, so we're taking some of that out. Salt and sand, we got the final bill, so I could take a little bit more, and that's where we're getting the $28,700 to transfer for this library septic. Any questions on any of those?
So the land use, we will be having more meetings now because of the merger, right?
The merger doesn't happen until after the next election,
Okay.
with the zoning and the planning.
Okay, so we have to,
In December of 2025, they actually merge.
so we have to.
So 136 moves into contingency for the current year, for the 24 budget.
Correct.
And then, so that's essentially 136 of additional surplus that wasn't contemplated when we were doing the budget analysis?
Correct. Well, it wasn't contemplated, but we're still trying to catch up to what the Board of Ed needs.
Okay.
The number went up again.
Okay, fair enough,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
okay.
It's 495?
I think it's up to 6 now.
6.
I couldn't attend the meeting.
I think it's up to 666.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's that number.
Yeah.
So that's, any other questions on expenditures? The capital update, and it's in your reports, that we want to close out 2 police vehicles that just had extra money in there. There's a new one for a police vehicle. One was totaled in a crash, and the net that will not be covered by KERMA is $12,000, and then we just grossed it up so that it's the gross expenditure minus the insurance reimbursement, and showed them gross. We're closing out the fire department, the life packs and the thermal cameras. They've purchased those. They've had just a little bit extra money. Public Works pickup truck, a little bit extra money. Track repair. There was an old project for track repair, and we don't need track repair because we have a new track. And then the beach auto gate that hasn't been done, but the capital committee asked that be closed out and come back in total next year. So we would, the net difference of what we would be closing is $44,733 that would go into fund balance unassigned.
What was that number again?
$44,733,
How much was the gate?
$18,200. Bonded capital projects, we've been talking about this for a while. We've been waiting because that has to go through the facilities committee and then the Board of Ed, and it just took them a while with all new members to set up the facilities committee to get it done. There's essentially 8,900 in small things that they were trying to add to projects, and that'll come out of fund balance. ARPA, two things on ARPA. The rooftop air handler, we wanted to close that out. We've talked about it, we didn't do it. So we want to formally make the motion to close that out. And then when I'm looking at the budget we have for this year, I made a change, which I liked the change, to not put it into cash, but I put it back into ARPA. So I just want to change the words on the budget before we finalize the budget and not have ARPA next to it, and we could put some other word, so it's just the documentation that it's not coming back out of ARPA, but audit update, we need to report our auditors to OPM by May 31st. There's no penalties if we're late. The first time it would affect us is if we ask for an extension, they wouldn't give us one if we haven't told them who our auditors are. In December of 2021, we voted to keep our current auditors for 5 more years. That they gave us a fixed fee for 3 years with increasing it just $1,000 a year, which was a really sweet deal. And these, and I've given you, and I'll email this out after, these fees that I've got in this presentation are after $6,000 savings from us preparing the statements. And there's some question if we should prepare the statements or not. There have been in the past. I think we've got to get all the information to them anyway. I think they're better statements if we prepare them. No, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but ours would just look like New Milford and Newtown, and because it's most efficient for them to have a template and just throw our numbers in. And so we need for the 2024 audit that will pay in next fiscal year, that we're talking now about potentially reappointing them. The net fee would be $57,000. That's up $1,000 from last year. In 2025 and 2026, we would have to talk to them and negotiate a new fee. And I have some anecdotal things on fees and scary stuff, but I'll do a full research on that unless you want me to research for this year, but we have a pretty good deal this year. There was a question that maybe John brought it to me, someone brought it to me from the public on why there are no costs on the bond resolution. And the budget document shows the costs. The bond resolution doesn't, and there's reasons why there's no costs on there for that. One, it's the motion to approve the funding and not approve the expenditures. We could put costs on there. However, if we did, we wouldn't have the flexibility to transfer between projects. And what that does is we'd have to keep, and we have established controls for transferring between projects. But what that would do is if we needed $1 more, we would have to go through a process to get that. And we would have to put, if we did that, we would have to put a contingency in each fund, and in each project, and we're trying to get rid of extra contingencies other places. And then the final thing, the way we've been doing it for the last 2 years is that bond resolution approves bonding, and it approves the excess revenues or other sources of money. Doesn't say which is which, and I confirmed with the bond attorney that, let's say something big, the track and field that was over $1 million of bonding, let's say that was delayed, out of our control, and now we're going to have to start worrying about arbitrage on that. Because we don't say that $1 million is bonded for track and field, we could take $1 million of other projects and flip them. And so, in theory, that our chances of ever having arbitrage on those years are very, very low. So that's just an added benefit of, but someone had asked that, and so I just wanted to address it.
And our bond counsel says that's best practice. That's what they do with most towns. And it makes sense, gives you the most flexibility without spending any more than you said you want to.
We're not hiding anything.
No.
Yeah, exactly, that's the question.
Yeah.
Correct. But I mean, there's reasons for it, and certainly if anyone wants to come to me and
Right.
ask the reasons, I'd be happy to share them, other than John. I'd share them with you, but anyone wants, besides John. That's the end. Any questions on any of that? All right.
In that case, I would like to move the new business to now, and to call before the report of the committees. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So the new business that we need to discuss, we want to just take care of earlier on is the budget transfers. And so I think Steve already talked in his report about the septic system at the library, which is a major part of it. So we have 6 motions in the agenda tonight for inter and intra-department transfers. We have, so we'll just go through them one by one. So I would like to make a motion to approve the intra-departmental transfers through March 22nd, 2024, as noted in the budget versus actual expenditures report that was reviewed at the April 1st Board of Selectmen's meeting.
I'll second.
And, yeah,
She sent you the whole form, but we don't have to do the intra,
oh,
we just do the
Yeah.
inter.
okay,
Okay, so,
okay, sorry. Then I will make a motion to
rescind the
rescind the
motion.
motion. Do I need a second on that, or?
I think you need this or something.
Okay, I'm rescinding the motion. So just the inter. So we'll move on to the next one, which is a motion to approve the interdepartmental transfers through March 22nd, as noted in the budget versus actual expenditure report reviewed at the April 1st Board of Selectmen meeting.
I'll second.
Vote. Any conversation or? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. None opposed? Okay. So then the capital non-recurring needed a motion. So it's just the intra that we don't need? Okay.
Yep.
So the motion to, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed transfers between projects in the capital non-recurring fund as shown in the attached report through March 25th and reviewed at the April 1st Board of Selectmen's meeting. Do I have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Aye. None opposed? The next motion, I am making a motion to approve the closing of the project in the ARPA fund as noted in the report through March 27th, 2024, and reviewed at the April 1st Board of Selectmen's meeting. Any second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. None opposed? Second to last, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed transfers between projects and the bonded capital projects as shown in the attached report through March 25th, 2024, and reviewed at the April 1st, 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting.
second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? And lastly, I would like to make a motion to approve the interdepartmental transfer for the library septic as noted in the budget versus actual expenditure report reviewed at the April 5th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Selectmen. And there's a second? Okay. And any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Great. Okay. So continuing in the new, might as well just finish up new business. So general budget discussion, follow-up.
I mean, I suggested that we, review any new information that came, or any public comment that came, or any, and I don't believe there's been any,
No.
so
Yeah.
no reason to.
I've received a lot of questions about the cannabis and some other
Yeah.
things, but nothing on the budget, which is interesting. Usually you get a few emails, right? I haven't gotten anything.
Nothing.
Good sign, right?
I don't know.
Well, I don't think was it actually on YouTube? I don't think it ever showed up, did it?
I don't know.
I don't think it did. I think the only people that saw were the people in the audience.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at the number of people that left after the Capitol meeting.
Yeah. But I
So
don't think it ever,
nobody said a word.
I don't know.
my wife was trying to get on and never.
I'll come over and.
Oh,
Don't worry, I spent a few hours.
you know what
with
the
her.
confusion might be?
She's up to speed.
When it's held at the
High schools.
school, it's on the school's
Yeah, it's on the-
Yeah,
YouTube
it's on the
Yeah.
school's YouTube.
Not on the
town.
town.
Oh,
I'm looking
That's
it up
probably,
now.
okay, so it is there. Okay, good.
I'm looking it up, I haven't seen
Because
it.
I went to the town.
yeah.
Maybe we need to.
Yeah, we've had that concern before.
Yeah.
We should probably get a copy of it and move it over to the town website so people can see it,
And did we have minutes for that?
or at least the link.
No, because I did what,
Oh.
I think I went on the wrong thing, and I was texting you and saying, where's the meeting?
Oh, I thought you meant physically where was the meeting,
No.
not. So maybe if we can get that meeting up and we can
Yeah,
get some meeting minutes, we'll make sure
absolutely.
that the minutes include the proper link.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you see it? I mean, she was recording.
Yeah, she was recording.
It was the camera.
Yeah,
I see a lot of things. I'm not sure that I'm adept at getting
Yeah,
into
okay.
Okay,
this.
we'll take a
Yeah.
look for it.
But I don't see it yet, but I'll follow up.
Okay. So there are no other adjustments that we know of or anything that's going?
No new, we haven't even talked about the surplus.
Yeah? Okay.
Simple, I mean, we've made adjustments in the past based upon new info.
Yeah.
And,
And we can still adjust down after the, like if a number comes in after the vote, we can go down, right? We can't go up without a vote, but can't we go
I
down?
believe that's correct.
Because I think we've had that in the past where insurance numbers came in after the referendum and we were able to adjust it downward.
Downwards. I think it's in favor of the town, so it's.
Most people aren't going to be opposed to that. And we did receive a preliminary list of the town vehicles and equipment. I think, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at it, but I think it'll be something to discuss at our next meeting. But I think that list will be helpful in that forward planning of how we, how we have a replacement schedule and, in line with what we've done in the past. I would love to see us add another, I'm having more retrieval date problems today. Having the reserves built for vehicles, and even if it's a pool for vehicles, just knowing that we have stuff, and maybe a truck can last an extra year, and it's not as high a priority, but a different department has something, so if we can have sort of a pooled reserve for some of the vehicle reserve, maybe that would be helpful with our planning.
I haven't had a chance to look at your sheet
I
too.
didn't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it later.
And did the town vehicles thing have all those questions answered? That Glenn had a whole bunch.
No,
No.
it's the inventory, it's not the data yet. I
Okay.
think that's
Yeah.
the next step, it looks like.
Yeah.
Inventory's a great place to start.
It is a great place to start, and I think Glenn had some questions, but I think it would be best to wait until he's with us next month, so. I'll hold off on that one. And then, lastly, there was a question that came up, and I don't know if everybody got it, maybe, I don't know if you forwarded it to everyone, but there was a question with the upcoming plan of conservation and development, in the previous, I don't know, is Courtney the chair of
She's the chair of the subcommittee
the sub, okay,
for the plan of development of the plan of conservation and development.
okay.
I met with her to discuss, she sent me a 3-page list of things that the first selectman's office is
Oh.
responsible for. I had looked at what she had requested,
Get the specs down.
that's right, of the Board of Finance. And I sent a response to you, but it was late today.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You can look at that. We do want the Board of Finance involved. I think specifically it's more aspirational what they're asking the Board of Finance to do, right?
Well, wasn't
See
she
the
asking-
email I sent you and see if you agreed. Glenn sent me a note saying, yeah, Steve, I think your thoughts here are good. But look at the email I sent it late today. So look at that. And we have a year and a half,
So
18 months.
yeah, the past plan of conservation development had action items from the Board of Finance that we would support both manpower
Historical,
and, yeah.
economic development, things
But
like
I
that.
think Marcia answered that question well, saying that, we don't throw money out, we respond to requests for money and resources,
Yeah.
and so I think that's what it goes for. Maybe we can all take a look at Steve's email and just see what our response would be. I don't remember seeing it
I
yet.
don't know if you hit send, Steve, because
Yeah.
I
But
think you
still-
specifically have a strong interest in this, because it is a plan of conservation and development, to look at the overall picture of the town and the overall financial stability of the town and the ability to support both historical districts and economic development.
Mhm.
But it's more, you don't have specific responsibility because you approve the spending of money, you don't initiate
Mhm.
the spending of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think she also was looking for, like, did we do those in the current one? So she
Yeah.
could know, like, do we check them off the list and move forward, or we have to add them?
But I don't think we
Again,
ever
roll
had,
them over.
I mean, it was from
Yeah.
back in 2017, I think,
Yeah.
so it was before some of our time.
Yeah.
But
Well-
they're clearly, Courtney is clearly looking for input from everybody.
Yeah.
So if you have thoughts on it, I would respond, and then the board might want to, as a group, come up with a response for the items.
Yeah. So I think we can jump back to,
Can I just fill in that,
Yeah,
yes,
please.
both meetings are on the school's website, and
Okay.
I'm just sending an email now to ask to put it also on our website.
oh, that'd be great. Marcia, are you prepared to report anything for the Board of Ed Finance? Were you able to attend
I
yesterday?
was not able.
I was, okay. So the projection for the Board of Ed overage has gone up. I didn't get a chance to review the cover letter that they sent. Apparently I can't type my password correctly.
Pull it up here. I did talk to Casey about it, that, I think it went up around 40 to 60,000. Part of it was, the net amount of the increase for the insurance for, Candlewood Lake Elementary School. We finally got that bill in because it was under Builder's Risk Insurance before, and now it's under ours. So that is, I think the biggest part of it.
And we didn't budget for that? We weren't expecting?
That I don't know,
Well, they have funding in there for both Center and Huckleberry. Because Huckleberry, we still had insured, we haven't, until we took it down.
Right.
So the difference is what we're looking for really there. Will CLES is, what, 13,000 more?
23,000 more.
22,000, okay.
23, yeah.
The insurance
Yep.
premium will go
Yeah.
up 22,000 for a $78 million building.
Sure.
Seems,
The anticipated shortfall for the overall budget is projected at 66,853, which is an increase of 51,235 over last month's projected shortfall of 650 and 618. This increase is largely due to the addition of an interim assistant principal at the high school to fill a long-term leave. The cost would be $22,550. An additional net charge for the liability insurance for CLES, $23,736, and changes in special ed transportation, $17,434. There were other less significant increases and decreases across various accounts, all of which are identified in the 4-page detailed report. We continue to implement a spending freeze on many supply accounts in order to cover budget shortfalls in areas such as electricity, extended duty, copier service, and liability insurance. The budget will continue to be monitored closely, and I'll report any changes and information as it becomes available.
And to that also, I was tasked last month, or one of our last meetings, to speak to Casey about the spending freeze, and it totally slipped my mind. I was going to touch base with her today, but I didn't get a chance, so I'll try to catch up with her tomorrow and get a little more detail on that, because, we don't want to be kicking the can down the road and just, postponing things that we're still going to have to get. And, generally spending freezes is not how we want to handle that. But I'll try to get some more information and bring it back to the board.
But in her report, she does a nice job of summarizing how much is the Town Board of Ed budgeting strategies, and that is $693,000 of the total. So they've made up more than their share with other savings.
Yes.
Can you send that over to all of us?
Yeah.
I was just going to say yes.
Yeah, I can send the cover letter over, and that has these itemized items and what Marcia just read.
There was an indication that they maybe were getting a delay on hiring that assistant principal.
The 23,000 is, the current assistant principal is going on a leave through the end of the year. So I think we got an email today,
Yeah,
Oh, no.
that the interim person, maybe-
backed out, yeah. so
backed out, so maybe they're not, this will be less
a
than
little bit,
absent.
yeah. I don't know how, And then, were there any other updates for the reports of committees? We did talk about audit.
The capital committee hasn't met, you all saw, it's not a problem that you didn't look at it. I just did a very simple one-page kind of capital strategy. There's 2 pages there, because one is the existing debt policy, because people might want to see what that is. I tried to separate between those two. So it's just a really simple one page. Think of it as just a discussion. I just think it's easier to have a discussion if you have something in your hand versus the ether. So you know, I've got no pride of what's in there too much, but it'll give us a good basis to start discussing
Yep.
Trump. So I figured maybe next meeting we put that on the agenda.
For sure.
For next meeting, the agenda, the selection of auditors and also the tax collectors suspense list.
Do we have any old business to discuss? Any other items to come before the board?
Oh, Yukon Man won
Again,
again.
Okay. And nobody in the public, unless John feels like he wants to speak?
No.
Then no public comment. I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.